Hello there. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. And if you are, I encourage you to please leave a review wherever you are listening. Thank you. Today, I am going to speak about money and having integrity in your business, in your life, as you step into deeper service on your path, whether it's in the psychedelic space or the other coaching, healing, therapeutic, transformational space. How do you balance making pretty good money with integrity and your values? So right now I am running 2 group programs, my True Path Entrepreneur Group Mastermind program and my You Are the Medicine 7-week group intensive program. The 7-week intensive is about to wrap up this week. And during this program and during both programs, I help my clients either create new offerings or tweak existing offerings that are not working or restructure their business so that they can actually be of more service and make more money in less time and learn how to leverage their time. So very often this requires redoing their offerings or restructuring their offerings or creating completely new offerings. Or if you're just starting out, you're creating your very first offering. And the one area without fail that comes up as a highly activating conversation year after year after year is when we come to how to price your offerings and programs. So, truth be told, pricing in the coaching industry, the psychedelic industry, therapy, healing, this whole space is essentially all over the place. And I always say, look, I can send you a screenshot of a coach telling me that her program costs $60,000. And I can send you another screenshot of a different coach telling me that her program costs $100,000 because I was genuinely interested in one, well, I guess both of them. And this was, by the way, a few years ago where I wrote them and I said, hey, I'm curious about joining this one program. I'm wondering what's the range. And for me, as someone who has invested into kind of higher ticket programs that range anywhere from, $10 to $20 or even $30,000, I was prepared to see something like 30, 35, 40. Okay, for someone like me who has invested greatly into my business, I am not really fazed to hear that a program for 12 months costs $20,000 to $30,000. To be honest, that is kind of the going rate out there, at least for the business coaching programs that I've been a part of. I do know there are other programs that cost a lot more, and then I do know of some others that are cost less, including my own group mastermind program. It is much less than $20,000. So that's a good start, right? So I've been in this industry long enough to see everything. I've seen people who are undercharging and struggling and then feeling resentful and really not holding their power and their energy when it comes to their value. And that never feels good. And to be honest, I personally don't like investing in people when I can tell that they're not feeling really good about the pricing. Like if they're not really feeling like they're getting their value of their time and their energy, I don't even want to work with them. So I only want to work with people that feel like excited to work with me and excited to make money as they work with me. So this is what happens if you're undercharging, you're charging too little. It starts to feel different to the people that you're working with. And maybe you don't notice it, maybe they don't notice it, maybe no one notices, but eventually it will catch up. You can't really be working in this world without raising your rates while we are living in, at least here in the US, a world where there is rising costs of everything. And we are entering, we're pretty much in inflation, and there's people that say we're in hyperinflation. So what happens is you essentially have to keep up with that and raise your rates as well. Of course, I will be the first to admit this doesn't really work. It's not sustainable, but this is a systemic problem with capitalism in general. So that is a deeper issue that, frankly, I always say we have to work within the means that we're in right now. Of course, you can protest this and just not be a part of it and do your own thing, which I've had clients that are completely going and doing that. But I'll be honest, the people that I know who've done this, where maybe they have donation based offerings or pay as you wish, or kind of doing these other business models outside of our tradition of capitalism. So for a few of them, they have money already, so they're not really worried and they're able to do that. And then the others I've seen actually just had a really hard time. They were struggling and sometimes even struggling to pay the bills. So if that feels like something you want to do or you're capable of doing, by all means, go for it. I really love this idea of sacred economics and working in different systems where maybe there are models where you could do pay as you wish or have something be donation based. But if you are a new entrepreneur or in the first 1 to 3 years and you're just starting out and you're trying to make ends meet and or replace your current income at a job or wherever you are, then most people are not able to do this because the reality is you have your rent, you have your bills, you have the cost of living, which, let's not bypass the reality. It's not free. It costs money to live in most places, at least here in the US. So if you're one of the lucky ones that have sorted out your lifestyle where you have little to no bills, then yeah, then you can play around with different pricing models. But this episode is about the average person that lives in wherever, California or Colorado. A lot of my clients live in these places where it's just generally, it's not cheap, right? It's Colorado. It's not the cheapest place to live. I don't know. Maybe there's parts of it that are, but okay, let's pretend you're just a regular person who has regular bills and you're starting out onto this path or you're reworking your offerings and it comes to pricing yourself. Then this conversation is about how to do it with integrity that feels good, that also supports you and allows you to be able to reinvest into your growth, into your service, and into your life. So this is kind of the catch-22, but it's also the beauty of it. In order to be of more service, you might want to, let's say, go do a new training or expand your knowledge of understanding, I don't know, how to work with energy in the psychedelic space, or certain wisdom traditions, which, you could maybe go live down in the jungle for the next 10 years and apprentice under someone, but you still have to be able to pay for certain things. And a lot of times these apprenticeships, they could be free and they can actually not be free. You're still expected to pay for a certain cost of living. You're not just there to mooch off of your indigenous medicine carrier for free, right? Quite the opposite. You're there to give back. So there's a lot of nuances in this conversation. That's what I just want to start with. But the one thing that came up, and I'm going to just talk to you about the way I teach my clients, is how to price your offerings and do it with integrity, how to shift your money mindset, but stay in integrity with your values. And also to be aware that everybody's values are different. I mean, let's be honest, some people value just making money more than others value being in balance. I will be the first to say that most of my clients are not just about making money. And I actually can't tell you the last time I worked with someone who was just on a mission to make money, because that's not my own values. So I tend not to attract people that are out just for the money. If all I wanted to do was attract clients who wanted to make millions, then all my marketing would be about making $100,000 a month or whatever all the coaches out there are talking about. By the way, there's a lot of business coaches where most of their marketing is centered around make 10,000 a month, $10,000 a month, 5,000 a month, 100,000 a month. I have never actually done that. It's just not who I am. And I find some of it just to be like kind of annoying. And I roll my eyes, for those of you listening. I roll my eyes as I say that, and not out of judgment. It's just not my style. My value system is centered around being of service, and also to know that the abundance in life to me is time and energy. It's not just the money. I do believe in having abundance and I do believe in money, But really, in the end, it's about the life that you want to live. So the way I teach my clients inside of my programs when it comes to pricing themselves, and this goes for anybody, whether you're a coach or a facilitator or a therapist or a combination, is to first establish your life. How do you want to live it? Where do you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What is most important to you? Do you value just making tons of money so you can buy a bunch of things? Or do you want to live in maybe just have a simple home and have a good life and have free time for friends, family, and things that are most important to you? Or do you want to try to find a place in the middle? Like, yes, you want to make a ton of money and you don't want to work so much. Of course, that's everybody's dream, right? So the first step is to really know yourself and know what's most important and really connect to why you're here and why you even want to do this. Why are you here making a new offering? Why are you stepping into the path of healing and coaching or facilitation work or in the psychedelic space? So establish your own values first and ask yourself, what is most important to you right now? Like in this next 6 to 12 months. And realistically speaking, I always have some clients who actually really need to make money. Maybe they're single or they're single moms or they own a home or they just got a divorce or out of a relationship or whatever it is. And they actually do have, this is the kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which of course I know has been highly criticized, but let's just pretend it's okay. The first need is to essentially survive. And here in the Western world, that will mean paying your rent, your bills, and paying for food, So some of my clients, that is their first priority is like, yes, of course, I'm here to grow a business. And I also need to be able to pay my bills comfortably and be able to not have my nervous system on overload, overwhelm, just trying to figure out how to pay the bills. So their way of pricing themselves might be different than some of my other clients who, let's say, have had really good cushy corporate jobs for 15, 20 years and they've saved up and maybe they're married and their partner makes a lot of money too and they're comfortable or they have some kind of savings or they're living a very frugal lifestyle, which I've also had many clients where it's like their cost of living is just very simple. They're maybe living in a lower cost country or living nomadically and they have no children and no nothing and don't own anything and they're living out of one backpack or one suitcase. So everybody's place of where they're at and what their needs are is going to be different. So when the police of the transformational industry decide that it's not okay for a facilitator to be charging $3,000 or $15,000 even, I really don't believe in listening to the policemen because they're coming at, how things should be with a very narrow mind and a black and white thinking. But in reality, everybody's different. So know yourself first and foremost. And what is it you want and need? Then start to determine, and you can work backwards. And this is a very practical thing. Literally go add up all of your costs and your expenses to live your life and just start from that. You have to be able to at least meet those needs first and then determine, well, how much more over that would you like to make? I always say in your first year or 2 years, be very realistic. I mean, it's a unicorn situation when a coach starts a new business and makes $100,000 in their first 6 months. Instagram ads will have you believe very different, but the reality is most coaches do not make their first 6 figures in their first 6 months. Some can, I have seen it, but it's usually with unique circumstances and or people who have a lot of money to invest into their business. And I've seen that. Someone just reached out to me who has published a book, established a coaching program, spoken on podcasts, and launched their own podcast all within a matter of, I think, a year or even less than that. But, you look at the background of this person and they had been in finance and made all this money in the hedge fund industry. So I always like to just be realistic and call things out as they are. Everybody's situation is different. And there's actually nothing wrong if you're doing this, of course, because it fulfills you and to be of service, but also because you do need to pay the bills. So establish that. Then really ask yourself what would feel good to your body and your nervous system, but also stretch you a little bit. So this is where you could charge someone $100 a month for a coaching program that's 6 months long, and you're doing 3 calls a month with them, plus you're giving them all these extra things and maybe even guiding them through some kind of psychedelic journey or a microdosing protocol. But are you really going to feel good earning just $100 a month from that? And then do the math. How many clients would you need in order to comfortably live your life and pay your bills and also make some money to then reinvest into your business or whatever it is you want to be doing? So there's a lot to consider there. So this is what happens when you undercharge is you start to realize that you would need 25 clients to make your bills or even more than that, right? And this is where you have to lay out your time and energy. Do you even have the space to be able to serve that many clients? So this is where there's going to be some deeper work to start to shift your money mindset. And I don't throw around the words money mindset in this kind of fluffy way. It's a mix of practical and also the deeper work of really knowing your value and your worth. And this is where most people get tripped up when it comes to pricing their services. This is where we get into the deeper work that we do inside of my mastermind program. And, it came up a fair amount inside of my 7-week intensive on last week's call, where someone who has a lot of experience was going through imposter syndrome. This is usually the number one issue that stops people when it comes to pricing out their services and asking for money and feeling really good about what they're charging. They never feel like they're good enough to even ask for a couple $100 a month, which, by the way, even if you were charging per session, you have to think about it. Well, how much per session would you charge? Which I don't believe in. I don't teach that. I always say wipe that model out of your mind, because that's an old model that actually doesn't serve anybody. But really, I mean, if you're only charging $300 a month for your psychedelic integration coaching program or whatever it is you're offering, health and wellness coaching, addiction recovery type coaching, $300 a month, and then you're giving X number of calls plus other support and other bonuses. Well, now you're genuinely undercharging yourself, right? But I want you to dig deeper into worthiness and valuing yourself and really start to do the mindfulness work to get at what is underneath those feelings of feeling not good enough to charge whatever you really want to be charging. Let's say you determine that you want to charge, I don't know, $800 a month for your offering for a 6-month program. Doesn't matter what it is. Let's say that's what you really want deep inside, but you're totally freaked out by it. You can't even handle saying it. You definitely don't feel good enough. And you feel like, who am I to ask for that much? That's so much money. So what I want you to do is start to write down these answers to these questions. First, determine whose voice is that's saying that. Is it really your voice that doesn't feel good enough? Or is there someone else's voice there? Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's one of your friends, maybe it's your entire medicine community, maybe it's people in the training program you were in. Like, really stop to feel into who is telling you that you're not good enough to charge that much, or that you're not even good enough to be doing this, or you're not experienced enough, or the imposter syndrome. Like, where is this coming from? Is it really coming from you, or is it maybe other people? And I really encourage you to do this, to journal and start to be aware of who are you thinking is policing you? Who is it that's criticizing you? Who are you afraid of losing if you come out there and say, I have this program that's $700-800 a month? Then if it's really you, I want you to stop to really do this work to see what is it inside of you that you're afraid of or believing. Usually it's this belief of not good enough, not trained enough, not experienced enough. Okay, fine. So then what I want you to do is write down the answer to this question. How will you know when you have enough experience to be charging X dollars per month? Is it when you're a certain age? Is it when you've done a certain amount of trainings? Is it when you've tripped a certain amount of times? That one always gets me. Is it like, okay, you can charge $4,000 for your psychedelic assisted, whatever it is, anxiety coaching program? I love making these things up off the top of my head. So is it when you've sat in 20 psychedelic sessions yourself, or gotten rid of every ounce of your anxiety first? Is it when you've maybe taken 10 different training programs? Is it when you are 55 years old, then you know you're good enough? So really, I want you to come up with some numbers and determine, like, when will you know that you're then qualified or capable or able to charge what you really want. Usually, if you actually go do this exercise, you'll start to see that it's a little ridiculous, because how do you put a number to this? This is where I start to use this example of doctors, dentists, surgeons, attorneys, therapists, right? How many of you have been to a bad doctor? Pretty much every time I ask this, pretty much everybody raises their hand. You've had at least one not so great experience with a doctor, dentist, therapist, surgeon, whoever, lawyer, realtor, people who've been doing their craft for maybe 20 years and even went to school and tested and got certified by multiple boards and have letters after their name, right? PhD. So a doctor goes to school for a really long time and then does a lot of training and internships and before they're able to go help people. And very often we've seen maybe doctors are in their 50s or 60s or even 70s, maybe been doing this for 30 or 40 years, and they're terrible. So then what? It's not necessarily the length of time or the amount of experience, is it? How many of you have sat in a psychedelic space with someone who's quite experienced who didn't really seem to impress you, or maybe even did some harm, right? Like all of us have heard these stories out there. There's multiple, even indigenous leaders. And by the way, I know of many of these stories myself from personal accounts. There's people that have been put on pedestals who are even indigenous leaders that have been at this for lineages, like in their ancestry, and they're still not any good. So is it the number of psychedelic sessions you've had, or is it something else? Is it the number of programs you've paid for, or is it the number of people you've actually spent time working with? Is it your own journey, or is it just getting things on paper? That's another question. It's like, just because you have a certificate, does that really mean that you now know what you're doing? And who's to say, what does it even mean to know what you're doing? Every coach, healer, therapist, facilitator is still learning and healing and growing themselves, right? If you meet any of these people that say they're all good and they've done all their work and they're fully healed, or they've figured it all out, I would actually run really fast. Because that means they still need to probably work on their ego, because really we're all here in the school of life and we're all children still learning. So this is where there's deeper mindset work to be done. And really to start to look at what really might be at play underneath all these beliefs around pricing and money and valuing yourself. Very often what I see is in the way of really owning your value is traumas. And these could be traumas from your current life or from family, programming, patterning. They could be societal trauma, societal programming. This could be from ancestry. This could be one thing someone said to you that's so deep in your unconscious and you don't even know about it at all yet. But when you start to do this deeper work and start to dig and work with someone on these patterns that already exist in your programming, in your DNA, in your ancestry, in your energetic field, I mean, I could go on and on, you start to see that maybe it's not actually true. Maybe some of it is just, it's caused these beliefs and these patterns and these programs to run where and this is one of the most common ones I see, is where you just never feel good enough at anything ever. So, for those of you who never feel pretty enough, skinny enough, rich enough, wealthy enough, trained enough, good enough, I mean, this is really at the root of what is the problem when it comes to capitalism. If you look at capitalism and our current society, at least here in the West, most of what's running, and not everybody, I'll be the first to admit that it's not everybody, but it is a major problem. We are constantly being sold this, that, or the other based around not being good enough, or you don't have the latest phone, or you don't have the newest gadget, or you're not eating the new fad diet, or you're not wearing the right outfit for this, and you're not looking good enough for XYZ, and then you throw in social media. So if you start to bring awareness to all of this programming and all of these feelings of never feeling good enough, never feeling worthy, not feeling valuable, and start to do your own deeper work to come into self-love and self-compassion, and most of all, self-belief. And also, for those of you that are really affected by lots of voices out there that are saying you need, XYZ trainings in order to do this, why, yes, some of it might be true and some of it might not be true. Who's to know what's true or not true? Who's to say what's right or wrong? I mean, 100 years ago, we didn't have thousands and thousands of people trying to tell you how to live your life, did we? Now we do, with social media and the internet and with our forms of communication. So if you just start to do your own work to really come into your pillar of your own sovereign light, you will start to see your greatness and your value. So if you find that you are constantly affected by people, including podcasts and the internet or emails, including me, which, I usually try not to tell people what to do, I encourage you to start to listen to it all with a different ear. Just start to take everything in with a grain of salt and question everything and ask yourself, is this really true for you? Or are you now allowing yourself to be influenced by influencers? And do this deeper work. And this is something, by the way, for any of you that are working with psychedelics, you can bring this into your psychedelic work to find out who you truly are and find your own value and determine for yourself what feels good and what feels right. And that is the absolute best place to start to price your offerings and price yourself. And the other little tidbit I teach my clients is find something that feels really good for you right now, where it would feel energetically good for you to ask someone for this certain amount, and practice saying it out loud to yourself. Record yourself saying it, feel good about it, and then go get a client at that rate and work with them and see how it feels to be paid that rate. Eventually, maybe after the second or third client at that rate, you might start to notice that you wish you had charged a little bit more because you're feeling like it's a little imbalanced. Maybe you're overgiving and under receiving. The whole point of all of this is to be in balance. And I believe that's everything in life. I mean, this is ancient wisdom, ancient medicine, Chinese medicine, all the ancient wisdom traditions. It's about bringing it into balance. So you have to find what's balanced for you. There is no psychedelic influencer or anyone out there on the internet who can tell you what feels right and feels good for your life and your goals and your dreams. That coach who sent me their program that costs $100,000, I actually was not bothered by it. To each their own. I was like, okay, I wouldn't charge $100,000 for this. I don't know, maybe I could. But it's not really, I don't feel the drive to do that. I don't really feel like it's in my value system. But for her, that's fine. That's her values. And she was, I mean, honestly, she was kind of at that point where she couldn't really take a lot of clients. So she had all these different levels of offerings. And some of the top tier offerings were six figures. Who knows, maybe even more. And some of her lower price offerings were, I don't know, $97. There's nothing wrong with it. It's like Tony Robbins or I don't know, if I called up Marianne Williamson and I said, "Hey, I want to do private Course in Miracles work with you," she would probably say no, or she would say, "Well, I don't have the time and space for private clients, but I can make space for just you. But because my time is so valuable, because I'm busy, I don't know, speaking on stages and running for president and writing another book and whatever, then it will have to be, $100,000 to make it worth my time." That's okay. That, I believe, is totally fine. And for those that are like rolling your eyes and about to shut this off, why is it that we are okay buying things from, I don't know, Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or the powers that be at some of these top corporations? Like, we don't seem to question them. I mean, Jeff Bezos is probably the primary shareholder at Amazon, but you have no problem buying like 90% of everything you own on Amazon, right? So then you have to start to question, why is it okay that the Jeff Bezos of the world make multi gazillions and could literally save poverty in the United States if he actually just gave away his money? Why are you okay with that, but you're not okay with the psychedelic facilitator who charges $3,000? This is where I am starting to get, I try not to judge too much, but some of the police people out there in the influencer space, um, you know, I have no problem calling them out, because it is, to me, it's not anybody's role on planet Earth to be telling other people how to live their life. It is only our job to share our experience and our light. And yeah, we have a voice. I have a voice. You have a voice. We're all here to share it. And it's also every single human being's job to come into their own sovereignty and figure out what is right for them. And there is no other human being on the planet who can tell you how to live, how to run your business, what to do, what to not do, how to heal, how not to heal, what to post online, what not to post online. It is yours to decide. And the same thing goes with money. And if you're just afraid of what others will think or what people will do to you, or being canceled by some influencers or police people out there and whoever, whatever spaces, then it becomes your deeper work to either allow external influences to run your business and your life, or get some support, or figure it out on your own, either one, to learn how to come in and pull yourself in to find your truth and what works for you and your business. And I'm telling you, the more you step into that sovereign pillar of your own light and your own worthiness and your own value, and determining your truth and knowing that no influencer, no coach, no, psychedelic police people, there's no guru that can tell you what's good for you. Only you are your own guru. GURU. I'm sure you've heard that by now, but I love that one. So this is how I teach how to price. And usually when I teach this with my clients, it's not just a 30-minute talk like I just gave on this podcast. It's sometimes private calls, sometimes it's a few sessions, and it's a process. I have a whole entire list, and I have many other tools to help you get past these blocks around money and value and worthiness. And it's a deep, deep process, including getting some maybe other support with a therapist or, a specialist in this field or in this area. And this is something I help my clients with as well. And we go pretty deep to get to the point where they start to feel really good about what they're offering and who they are and where it's priced. And that is when it becomes very easy to call in clients and have them say yes to your offerings. You really have to get into your own alignment with yourself and your heart and your values first and foremost. So it starts from within, and it's not an external game, it's within. So this is the deeper work. I hope you got some kind of value out of this. I would love to know if this is something you've been struggling with, or is this something you continue to struggle with? And did this help you at all? And if you find that it helps you and maybe even helps you down the road, please feel free to direct message me or comment on this or send me an email. I would love to hear from you and see if this helped or even made even a little shift in your business and your value. Thank you so much. I look forward to our next episode next week. I will see you there. Lots of love.